What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers That Filters podcast, episode 141. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight, you know I had to do it to him. I'm drinking the New Holland Tangerine Space Machine, baby.
Ayo.
And you know, I think, because like, Joseph, you had this like recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think I noticed then that they changed the can design from the last time I had it back at the house. But seeing it in person, I like it, but I still miss the old can design. I think it had a little more personality to it.
I agree with that. Still recognizable with that can design, and I mean, a lot of places are going to a more simpler logo and like can design, so I totally understand that. But yeah.
It just seems like all their beer now is like the same kind of design with different color variants, which like, again, is fine. But I liked, a little more originality, but that's just me.
Yeah. And then I'm Joseph, and I'm once again drinking Bald Man Brewing Misty Mountain Hops IPA.
Very nice.
Nice.
Just as good the second time.
I'm Gabe. I finally got some new beer after like a month. I don't even know how long it's been. I got the classic Indeed Flavor Wave IPA with the sick ass art. Looks like it's from the 90s. This is like my go-to when I get overwhelmed and I'm like, there's so many choices because it's Total Wine and there's hallways and hallways of beer. And then I see Flavor Wave and it's just, he's like, hey, I got you. So I pick it up every time. So,
stop freaking out. Just drink me.
Just drink my haziness and my IPA-ness. It's going to be a good time.
That's a good one.
And I'm Dayton, and I am drinking just a margarita. I don't have any beer.
Ooh.
Because,
You killed a 30 rack?
Maybe we got through it. Who knows?
How did that happen? Because you were going through it really slow.
Well, Halloween happened. That's the answer.
Oh, of course. I'll tell you about that. What's in your margarita? You mixed up your stuff.
Premix and tequila.
Oh my god. I can't knock it too hard because I always love getting those margarita buckets in college.
I will say this is like, it's like the upper end of like the premix stuff.
Of mixes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, well, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. As always, you can find our show on Monday mornings on YouTube and podcast services. Don't forget to follow us on social media and on Twitch. Links are in the description below. But yeah, let's get into our weekly updates. And Dayton, tell me about Halloween.
Yeah, so I drove up to Maine to go see Justin for the weekend. So that was like a 5.5 hour drive or whatever. So not too bad in the grand scheme of things. So Friday got up there like pretty late. It was at like 9 o'clock or something when I ended up getting up there. So didn't really do much that night. And then Saturday we woke up. I had to get a run in with Justin, so we did that, and then we went shopping. Justin is like the world's worst shopper. He's like just so inefficient. Like the amount of times that we went from one end of the store to the other, back to the other side, and I'm just like, bro, like, come on, guy.
Is this a store he's been to, but like multiple times?
Yes, like he knows.
I was gonna say, if it's like a new store and you don't know where the fucking cheese is.
No, like he's been to this store many times.
Okay, that's inexcusable.
I know. So then we ended up, cooking food for everybody. Like it was kind of like a potluck style. So I made some witch's fingers out of seitan, which is like that wheat gluten sort of like dough stuff. We made some brownies that turned out hard as a rock, and we literally could not bite them. And that's the spooky part about them.
They're indigestible.
Yeah. And then what was the other thing? Oh, and then we made a 4-layer dip, which was very good. But yeah, so for Halloween I dressed up as a Karen. For anybody that is on my Finsta, I posted
What's that
pictures.
handle?
Yeah, I'm not gonna post it publicly.
Private Instagram.
If you're in the know, you know.
Yeah,
it's a Finsta game.
Yeah.
You can find it if you really try. I'm
yeah,
sure.
it's not too hard to find it.
Yeah.
And then there's a video of me in character while playing some, I think, beer pong at the time. So yeah, we ended up killing the 30 rack that I had left. I think I probably had like 20 beers left in there. Just absolutely obliterated that thing. We played so much Rage Cage and beer pong. You name
I have
it.
a question.
What's up?
How many times did you say I'd like to speak to your manager? And did you make it a drinking game?
I did not make it a drinking game, but I did sure say it a whole hell of a lot. And like my big thing was that my husband was the president of Nintendo.
Of course.
And everybody just referred to me as Karen for the evening, which is kind of
Great
funny.
time.
And I
Did
held
you do any of like, I'm recording you right now. I'm recording you.
no, I didn't do that, but I made sure to like, I would like hit people like my purse and shit like that, and I was hiding nips in my purse. So every so often I would take a nip out of my purse and a fireball or whatever. But yeah, it was a fun time, very fun time.
Nice. Sounds great. Justin, gave you guys do anything for Halloween?
Yeah, we went to a couple bars. I dressed up as Dr. Doofenshmirtz, and Alyssa was Perry the Platypus.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, I am really bad at planning, as you may or may not know. And I waited until the day before to find a lab coat.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a prepackaged doctor's costume. And I was like, oh, fuck it, buy that. Don't even look at it, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween or Saturday evening, so like the day before, but like the night we were going out.
Great.
I opened it up for the first time. Someone must have stolen the lab coat out of the costume because it had it listed, but there was no lab coat. And then I also realized it was a child's costume, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. So it was whatever. Luckily, Alyssa had a white cardigan, so I wore that. And the amount of people this one guy asked me first if I was David Bowie because of my long hair. And then he asked me if I was the dude from Big Lebowski. And I was like, damn it, those are two way better, or not way better, but like two great options I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
I got the
next year, man.
sideburns. Like I could have ordered some White Russians, could have killed it as the dude. Plus I would wear sweatpants, but not the point. It was still fun. We had a lot of great costumes. Yeah, we went to a couple Northeast bars, but that was about it. Still had a blast though.
Do you dress up, Gabe?
Yeah, I went the day of to a Spirit Halloween in a not great suburb of Minneapolis. Not like super sketchy, but not like a cake eater place. It was just so picked over. So
yeah,
I took what I could get. I went as a referee because it was like that or a pickle. Like the costume was just a pickle, and like I was honestly considering it.
But then all night people will be like, Pickle Rick, and it's that gets annoying really fast.
And like in a bar as like a pickle would be so fucking annoying. I would spill so many people's drinks as a goddamn pickle. So this made it way easier. Yeah. And then we brought a work friend along with who's definitely been more sheltered in his life. So that was fun to show him a bar. It was the first time he ever went to a bar. So
oh my god!
What?
It was a good time.
Can I ask how old they were?
He's 22 or 23. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, could be worse, but
Well,
I'm glad you're able to give them that experience.
From my understanding, he like mostly like drank in the dorms or whatever, and just like never thought of it. So I don't know. He's pretty fun. It's fun to see him get drunk because he's like definitely more of the quiet type, like Tim. So like him and Tim get along really well because they're both very like quiet or more like introverted people, and it's just fun to see those people get drunk and start talking. So it was
see their true self.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I was talking to the coworker, and I think he said that he turned 21 during COVID or right around that.
I think that's the case too.
That makes
so
a lot
like
more sense.
stuff was locked down, and he's like, "Well, what the fuck?" So it's like, and then it's like, "Well, when is? I don't know what a bar looks like at that point."
Yeah. All right,
So
all sins are forgiven. That makes a little too much
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, I kind of forget that COVID's been happening for like 2 years, so like that totally tracks. So
yeah, it's coming up on
None of
2 years.
us want to think about it, to be honest.
yeah,
My Halloween was much less eventful. I didn't do shit. I ordered a Domino's pizza and watched a movie. So, I watched, I was just on Monday on the stream, watched School of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic movie. Would recommend. Also watched, after our stream on Monday, I watched Do the Right Thing, which is one of Spike Lee's first movies.
Hmm.
Highly recommended. It proved to me that we have not made any progress on race in this country in the last 30 years. Because literally what happened to George Floyd exactly happens in that movie. And it's just like, God damn it. But it's super, super good. Highly recommend it. Yeah, great, great movie. But anyway, uh, I do want to give a shout out today on the podcast. I was talking to a friend of the show, Perkins, yesterday. I haven't talked to him in a few months. And he told me, I didn't know, he was in trying to lose weight recently for the past few months. And he did this thing, and I wish I could remember the name of it. But it's some service where you essentially bet on if you're going to lose weight, if you can lose weight or not. So for him, he bet $450 that he was going to lose 50 pounds. And if you do it, I'm sure it's within some sort of time constraint, you get back almost double your money. So he just 50 pounds thing this weekend, so he's getting like 800 some dollars back. I'm like, hell
Damn.
yeah, dude, that's awesome.
that's
Whatever it takes to
dedication.
motivate.
I know.
Yeah.
He's like, apparently money's a good motivator. I'm like, yeah,
Wait,
that's a great idea.
how do they verify your weight though?
I'm sure they have some system for
I want
like
to know the
you being
algorithm
on a
that like
scale or
bets the
something.
odds. Like, do they
I
ask
mean,
you how active
apparently,
you are, or like, is there a
apparently
question
it
there?
it fails more than it succeeds if
I
they're still
mean,
in
yeah, if
business.
it exists, like clearly they make their money somehow, but I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very proud of him. That's awesome. So if you're interested in losing weight, I can't remember the name, but look at that up and see if you can find it. You can bet on yourself if you're gonna be able to lose the weight. So there you go.
Interesting.
But yeah, let's get into the topics. We
I
got a little
have
more. Oh, go
one
ahead, Joseph.
more
Sorry.
of a non-Halloween related weekly thing.
Give it to me.
I, uh, well, let's see, Dayton, you can tell your parents that they can't call me a bum anymore because your
Oh,
boy got a new job.
Hell yeah,
congrats.
Joseph!
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So yeah, it's a ski tech or repair tech at this shop in kind of a suburb of
Mm.
Minneapolis. But they're owned by Vail Resorts, and one
Oh,
of the perks of working there is you get their season pass, which is called the Epic Pass. So
what?
Going
That's
to
there's
actually
like
Afton, baby.
different
crazy.
there's like different levels of it, I think. So I don't know if it covers all of their properties. But like definitely Afton Alps, which is here in
Hmm.
Minneapolis area, and then I don't know. Vail owns like over half of the ski resorts in the US and even outside. So
Yeah,
there's plenty of places for that and a ton of discounts that come along with it
that's awesome.
for working there. So that'll be awesome and excited to get off my ass and finally do something. So
Can I ask what suburb it's in?
it's in St. Louis Park. It's
Oh,
called
okay.
Hoy Guards. I
Okay.
don't know if
I
you've
hadn't heard of
heard
it,
of
but
it.
yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
kind of gonna be kind of annoying to get to, because of traffic, but I don't think it'll be too bad. I'll get used to
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, well, we went to Afton a couple years ago now, I guess. We had a good time.
yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when I was a kid, we went to Afton for ski club. That was
mhm.
pre-Vail buying them. I remember it was a big deal when Vail came in and bought them and like renovated all their ski lifts and shit. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so we got more of a serious topic tonight. We're going to be talking about when is it time to break up with your friends, and also the importance of keeping your friends accountable. I think is also a large facet to this. So, as an intro, I want to give a brief summary on an event that happened the weekend that we were actually at the Cider Squeeze. I was reading about it periodically throughout that. So, Gus Johnson is a YouTuber that we've talked about before in this podcast. We were a fan of him and his comedy and stuff like that. And his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at this point released a video talking about she had an ectopic pregnancy a few years ago. That was an absolutely horrible experience. I highly recommend people watch it just to get more of an idea of like how women are treated in the medical system. in this country. It's not great. Her YouTube channel is Abelina Sabrina, and you can find that video on there. So I'd highly recommend that. But anyway, in the video, she indicates that her boyfriend at the time that wasn't necessarily the most supportive and said some pretty harmful things. And again, you can watch this for yourself. But anyway, boyfriend was in fact Gus Johnson, so there's been a lot of hubbub on the internet about him and how he treated her and stuff like that. All that is to say, his friend and partner Eddie Burback, who they've been making videos together for a long time now, released a statement on the situation, and I wanted to read it as kind of an intro to this topic. So here is his statement. Hey guys, apologies for being gone for the last few days. In all honesty, I've just been so hurt, confused, and sad. I watched Sabrina's video, and while I had heard altered bits of the story once or twice over the last few years, I had absolutely no idea of the extent of the trauma that she went through with her medical situation. We've talked a good deal since, and it's been so great to see her doing well now. I don't feel comfortable or that it's my place to speak on some details of the relationship, but I will say that I'm realizing I haven't had an accurate grasp on what it was like between them privately until now. I just feel like I've been left in the dark, and finding all this out is very difficult for me after years of friendship. I'm just very confused and hurt and need some time to process things. I also realize a lot of you are going through this too, and I'm so sorry for that. And then he goes on to say he's going to work on his own now with his brother and kind of not work with Gus anymore. So that's kind of what kind of sparked this topic for me to talk about, because multiple times in my life, like think about this topic 3 times now in my life, I've had a break off with friends, which is more than I probably would have liked or expected. And it's a hard thing to do, but I think it's important to talk about, especially as a group of guys. I think male friend groups and just kind of male friendships are they have a certain dynamic to them. And I think we should talk about that aspect of things, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I guess to start, do you guys have any experience with this? We have one shared experience we'll get to later on, but I'm curious if you guys had any individual experience with breaking up with friends kind of before college, we'll say.
I haven't had before college, but when I moved out here, the first guy that I met and that I would say that I was like friends with out here, turned out to be like a real piece of shit. And that's not just a quote from I Think You Should Leave or anything. He actually was just a complete piece of shit. So like gradually, I just kind of phased him out. But it's always like really weird when like you're in the position of like you're starting to get like the picture that this person maybe isn't somebody that you want to hang out with, and you're trying to like understand. Like, I mean, at least for me, I try and give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe it's it's a tough day at work. Maybe their girlfriend's giving them problems or something like that. But it's like after so long, it's like you have a track record of just being a piece of shit. So like it was really weird for like me, because I would always hang out with him with like another one of my friends out here, and neither of us like really like said anything for like the first like month, because we were still like trying to like understand. I mean, like we weren't hanging out every day, so like the first month we maybe hung out like 3 or 4 times, right? And it took like one time where us three were hanging out, and instead of like him like just like saying something like off the wall, he like attacked the other guy. And at that point I'm like, yep, I'm done with this guy. Like that wasn't like a joking attack. That wasn't like a haha, like ribbing him or anything like that. Like he was just being an asshole to him. So like after that, then like my friend that he attacked, and I like kind of started talking, and we were like, yeah, like this guy's like a piece of shit. Like we should just like not talk to him anymore. And then we pretty much just ghosted him. He hard ghosted him. And then I soft ghosted him, I'll say, because his roommate at the time is my current roommate. So like whenever I would go and hang out with my current roommate over in his old apartment, I would have to see him, but I would never talk to him. But yeah, that's like the most recent one. In like high school, I never really had to cut out friends or anything, break up with friends.
Well, Dave, if I remember right, that friend who you had to drop off, that kind of came out of, for lack of a better term, necessity, because you're coming out to a new place and you kind of just try to find people as fast as possible. It's like, all right, you seem fine. I'll grab onto you first. And then it's like, okay, then you realize later on that not great.
Yeah, it definitely was like a friend of circumstance where I didn't know anybody out here. He was in like my orientation class for work. And and we had like a few things in common. So we just like we went off that, and then after that, I realized that we had nothing more in common other than those few things that were very superficial, and realized that it wasn't good.
Yeah. Yeah. I brought that up 'cause my first instance, this is kind of a similar situation. This is back in the day. This is little kid Jacob. We're talking fourth grade, maybe like even. I mean, I don't know when I started hanging out with this kid. Probably like first or second grade. But anyway, when I was a kid, I hung out with this kid in my neighborhood, and it was pretty much like a circumstance that you're saying, Dayton. Like, you need someone to hang out with, and there's a kid who lives in close proximity. So like, all right, I guess we'll be friends and hang out. And if I'm being honest, like, I never really vibed with him too much. He was kind of a weird guy. He sometimes did sit. I was kind of like, I don't really feel comfortable with that. And but it was like I don't have any other friends, so I guess you're my friend, you know. And I was friends with him for like I don't know how long. We'll say a couple of years. And like his parents really liked me, which I don't know. I think they thought I was like a good influence on him, and I'm like that's kind of a lot of pressure to put on a young child. But anyway, the instance where I stopped hanging out with him was, and it was in the winter. So his family had this thing where they'd make like this ice luge in the back of their house, which was fucking awesome, right? It's like every kid wants to go on like an ice luge in the winter, right? So like we were in the back like working on that and like kind of just like playing around in the snow. My brother was with me too at the time. He'd come with, and my brother's like 3 years younger than me, and so it was the three of us hanging out in the back. And his next door neighbor, him and his friends came over. So they were like a little older than us. I don't remember how much older. Let's say they were in middle school at the time. And like my friend, Joe's gonna be a fake name. I can give this guy.
Mike.
I'll go with Mike. Sorry, Joseph. John's it's too generic. It's too generic.
And Mike is less generic.
So Mike, my friend, is like friends with his neighbors. They're like talking and stuff, and then we kind of start like doing like a little snowball fight. But then the neighbors just start like really roughhousing us and like chucking me and my brother around, and it like I don't want to say like beat us up, but like it was getting like very aggressive. And they weren't doing shit to Mike, and he just like wasn't saying anything. Granted, I understand the situation. It's a little kid. There's older kids. You're not necessarily gonna stand up for yourself or your friends, whatever. But like my brother and I just got like kicked around and shit. And I'm like, and Mike was just like fine with it. And I'm like, all right, we're done. Like I never really liked you too much anyway. And also, this is like unacceptable. I don't appreciate getting like beat up by your other like neighbor friends. I'm out of here. So I took my brother home and like I never really hung out with him after that. So again, it was kind of born out of circumstance anyway, so we weren't like close friends really, but it was just like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like you can't just like let this happen to me and be okay with it. But getting into more of long-term friendships and when to break those off, I think is where this situation gets a lot more complicated. And I'll give my one example, then we can go into our shared example of this happening. So, I had a friend, we'll call him John, and call him John, and we'd been friends since early middle school. Friends all through middle school and high school, really close. And when I went to college at Tech, you know, he stayed in Minneapolis. When I went to Tech, you know, we continued to talk over Discord and like play some of the games together, and then you know in the summers we'd hang out. But like I would say after I got back from New Zealand, I noticed kind of a change. So I went to New Zealand the spring of my second year. So I got back, and then the summer after I was hanging out with him and our other high school friends, just felt kind of different. Like I feel like I had changed, and no one else had really changed, and it was kind of like a weird. Didn't really feel comfortable being there. I didn't really feel like I fit in as well. And then over the next like 2 years of like third year and fourth year, we kind of started talking less and less. And I think part of that was just because he was my go-to friend for like talking about movies and video games, a lot of like shared interest stuff. But we didn't really talk about like emotions or how we were feeling. He wasn't like my friend for that. I talked about that before in this podcast and like our friends episode. And I was getting that fix of like video games and movies with you guys, like with Gabe talking about video games, or if we went to a movie together, we all in the house kind of got that from each other. So I didn't really like, it sounds like fucked up. Like I don't have a use for him as a friend as much because like I was getting my fill in that like part of my life without him. So like communication was getting really hard. And like to be perfectly clear, I definitely take some blame in where we ended up as friends, but getting to the kind of breaking point in it must have been fourth year. Him and two of my other high school friends came up to visit the house and for Halloween. And to be honest, like they didn't like ask me like, "Oh, should we come up?" They're like, "We're coming this weekend. Like, get ready." And I was like, "Okay, would prefer if we had like planned this out more, but I guess you're coming this weekend and we'll figure it out." Came up and it was fine. We all hung out and stuff. But I think it was on Halloween, we all went to our friend's house for a party, Love Shack, as we've affectionately called it over the years. And so we're at Love Shack, we're all hanging out, partying with people, and John.
Mike's
John,
back here from fourth
he came
grade.
back from the grave. John and another person who had come up with them, we'll call him Jonesy. Yeah, John and Jonesy. You got Letterkenny reference in there for you. John and Jonesy are kind of just like standing on the outskirts of the party. They're not really like getting involved with it. Like we're like dancing and we're like doing Halloween shit. Uh, and they're just kind of like
Halloween shit. What are
we had our
scaring
costumes and weird people were
kids
like
or
asking us
something?
about our costumes. You remember? That was
No,
sort
I
of thought
remember. I'm just confused on what the Halloween shit is.
the shit you do
Apples
on
in
Halloween.
the middle of the dance floor. Fucking shit.
So John and Jonesy are like kind of on the outskirts of the party, not really getting involved, and like try to get them to like dance, and they're not really feeling it. Okay, but then they're like, okay, we're bored. Let's make our own fun. And to that, they meant let's fuck with the music. So this was not our house. This is our friend's house, right? They would go over and just like add like meme songs to the playlist, and then wait for them to come up, and then people be like, "What the fuck is this?" And like it was just very rude. And one time it happening, it's like, okay, that's weird, but like, fine. They like the host of the house like asked them to stop, and they kept fucking doing it. And yeah, they were drinking, but like, still, they just kept doing it over and over and over and over again after being asked to stop. And it just really pissed me off. It's like you come to my house and you insult my friends. Like it was just I felt it was just so disrespectful. And we kind of talked about it later, and Jonesy ended up apologizing, but John never apologized to me for that. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of the final straw for me. Because where I want to get to is like, my kind of criteria for this is a kind of betrayal on some level, and then no, like a lack of remorse. That's the 1-2 punch that really just I cannot like abide. Going back to the dude reference. But the fact that like they did it, were asked to stop, continued to do it, and then had no remorse about it, and didn't understand that it was super rude and disrespectful to me, I'm like, no. And we kind of just fizzled out, and I kind of ghosted him, and then we kind of had a big blow up conversation. We kind of ended things, but and like I said, I'm not without fault in this whole thing as far as like the communication could have been better. I know that for sure, but this particular event really, really pissed me off, and like I said, the betrayal plus no remorse. I'm just like it's so hard for someone to come back after that in my eyes. And it's like someone to trust. So yeah, that was kind of my second instance of this happening in my life. But the third instance we all shared together. And Gabe, I'll let you do this.
Oh, I was gonna sideline and talk about some personal experience, but I mean, if we want to go in the big topic.
No, go ahead. We'll do the other one last.
Yeah, I guess memories flooded to me when you guys were sharing your experience. I was trying to find the episode right now, but I can't find it because I think I might have talked about it in the high school friend episode. I think we had an episode on that. In middle school, I was. This is gonna sound crazy, guys. It's pretty nerdy.
Oh, dude.
And I was in the you don't have any other friends group, which is like everyone's just the fucking weird people and whatever. Which is fine. But going into high school, I got into like sports, and I got it's not as nerdy as it sounds. Band's really big in the school I went to. Okay, I went to band.
Gabe, you don't have to apologize for what you did in high school. It's fine.
Or maybe you do.
I think
we were all there.
Yeah. So I was making a lot of other friends, and then I realized, I think I was kind of the shitty person in this situation, and I'm not gonna say I regret it, but I definitely like think there was like a moment where I realized that uh, I wasn't gonna be able to be long term friends with these people because not because I was like, oh, you're weird now. It was like I realized like there's other people that share more interests with me, and it's not like I'm just thrown in the leftover bin. It was like there's people I connected with more, and just developed some small fraction of social skills to where like I don't know. I feel like it just we kind of like were growing apart, and I didn't really want to hang out with them. And I remember like freshman year, like the first couple weeks, we went to like a football game together, and then I realized like pretty much then and there that like I didn't see myself being friends with these guys like all throughout high school, and I needed to move on. So I kind of ghosted them. It was kind of shitty because like they always would like try and like, hey, let's hang out, and I just didn't want to. Uh, and I remember my dad making a comment when I hung out with some of my new friends later in that same freshman year. He was like, none of your friends screamed tonight or yelled or like made a scene or like super weird. And I was like, yeah, this is okay. If that's the plan. And I think that's a perfect way to, I don't know why it's so cinched in my memory, but I think that's like a perfect way to describe, like for me, it was like kind of like a coming of age thing. Like I just realized that there's other people with different interests that I wanted to explore and stuff like that. And then all throughout high school, I don't know. I found like a group, right? I was in a group, and moving to college, I was the only one in my class to go to Michigan Tech, so it was obviously a little bit far away from mid Michigan. It was like 8 hours and some change. So I think that was also on purpose, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, but I think even after I found the quote unquote new group, I didn't really feel like fully connected. Like I still felt like I was a little bit of the outsider. Yeah, I definitely had like developed a lot more social skills and interests, but there's just some people in that group. I feel like there was no one that I could connect to on some of my shared interests at all, and I definitely felt like I was like everyone has like the lowest member on a group in the totem pole, and I definitely felt that way.
I think it's a male friend group thing in particular. There's always the person at the end who gets the most shit.
Yeah, which like isn't like always like a bad thing, but it definitely felt like I was just kind of always a little bit on the end of it, where like I was just the most socially awkward one, or like whatever it was, which probably was true because pretty socially awkward in high school. So I mean, I'll hang out with them when I come back for Thanksgiving every now and then, like once every 2 years. But I think even now, like there's still that weird thing where like everyone's just on such different life paths now, where it's like I'm kind of doing my own thing, they're kind of doing their own thing. A lot of people stayed behind in our hometown. It was the hometown episode. That's what it was. Not the high school friend one. That doesn't exist. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like now, even so, like maybe I just like clinged on to them, And I feel like in college, I really like met people who had a lot of the shared interests that I have now and really got to develop them. But I feel like there doesn't have to be more of a reason where it's like, this person fucked me over. Sometimes it's just like, that's not the person I want to be, or I see myself going a different direction, and I just decided to dump them. Like I don't think I regret either decision, but from both groups. Like I think it was good for me, but in both cases. And sometimes you just gotta jump ship and meet some new people and really challenge yourself in a different way, or think a different way.
So sometimes it really is true when it's like the. Oh wait, I think I'm having internet issues.
I think you're back now. You had a little.
Okay.
You're good. Yeah, you hitched a bit.
All right, I'll cut that out.
Just going back quickly to the lowest rung in the totem pole thing. Well, also just what you said, Gabe. You say you don't really regret anything, and I think we probably all would say that. Like we don't really regret what ended up like moving friends, dropping a friend. I don't think we regret, but like maybe how we did it. Like is always like the hard. Like we already said the word ghosting multiple times. Like me, Gabe, and Date have all said the word ghosting, and it's like that's shitty. Like you never want to be ghosted, but like it's so hard to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's even weirder with a friendship than a relationship, to quote unquote break up with them. Like a relationship, it makes sense. It's kind of part of it, right? But like in a friendship, it's like, hey, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. I don't know. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
it's hard. It's really
yeah,
hard. Like, because like you said, if you go on like one date with somebody and then they ghost you, it's like okay, like there's
whatever.
not a lot of skin in the game here. But like, if you're friends with somebody for like 5+ years and then you
Mm-hmm.
just like ghost them, it's like okay, what the fuck? Like that they deserve a better explanation than that. Um, and I would assume I've never been this. I would assume it could be even harder than breaking up in it from a romantic
I feel
relationship.
like romantically, it's way easier because it's like, hey, I don't want to hang out with you is breaking up with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like
Or you
it's
could
just
even cite like other issues. I don't know. It's hard. Like when I ended up with John, we had like a big kind of blow up fight at the end of it because he called me out for ghosting him. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, but also I don't want to be friends anymore for this, and this reason. Um, and I'm glad I was able to say that. I'm as shitty as that conversation was. I'm glad he called me out so we could both say what we needed to say, get off our chest. Um, because yeah, that's the hardest part of this whole thing is not necessarily doing it, but like how you do it is really hard.
Yeah, I when I was in high school, I got into a really big fight with one of my closer friends, and I think I've talked to him a couple times. Mostly it was after graduation. We had a couple mutual friends, and it was like, "Hey, I know you don't like this guy, but we're gonna go hang out with someone else, and he's gonna be there." I'm like, you know what? That was in high school. I wouldn't say I am okay, but or like I wouldn't say like I'm buddy buddy with him, but I'm okay hanging around him now. And I don't know.
Yeah.
We were friends. I think we met in like kindergarten or like first grade, and then intermittently we had classes together. And then I remember in high school, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say I was the or like I handled it perfectly.
Mhm.
But like he had been, I don't know, he had a different uh way of growing up, I suppose, than I did, and that's completely valid. But he just came off as very rude a lot of times, and I don't know. It just his stance, his outlook on the world was very different than mine at the time, and I was probably naive, because
Mm,
this was what freshman or sophomore year.
right.
I was still pretty. I mean, we were pretty young.
Yeah.
But we had this huge fight and did not end well, and I kind of regret it only because I lost a couple other good friends in the process, just because that happens when, big friend group like that. But I still stand by what I said. Not what I said, or I guess the ideas that I came across or tried to.
Yeah.
The things he said, I was like, I don't really agree with that, and I kind of still don't, but I don't know. It is what it is. But I'm it wasn't so bad that I wasn't able to, hang out in a group setting with him, or, I don't text him or seek out his, you know, friendship at any point, but
Right.
I wouldn't say that we're completely on. I think I follow him on Twitter, so whatever, it's one of those things where he just went from a friend to that class or a classmate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like that's somebody that I used to know, kind
Yeah,
of.
like yeah, I went to school with him. If I ran into him on the street, I'd say hey, but that's about it.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
got you. It's like you said, it's hard too when you're younger. Like everything's hard when you're younger with this kind of stuff because like
Yeah.
nobody, especially with guys, aren't really like we aren't really taught how to deal with our emotions in this kind of way. So it could be really hard to express yourself and how you're feeling in a way that's not rude or disrespectful to the other person. Um, but anyway, let's get into our shared experience. Gabe, I'll let you take this one.
oh man, I feel like I was at the tail end of this like relationship between all of us. Obviously, we're not gonna name this person. Uh, this person had some minor offenses. Well, major offenses we just didn't know about at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, towards our group and some of our other friends in the group that will also remain nameless. People who are listening know who this person is potentially. But yeah, I mean, long story short, they did some decisions that definitely messed up their relationship between each other and kind of betrayed some trust. And there was a point when we had our classic spring break trip where this person got quite drunk and said some pretty mean things to me at Dayton's house. At
Like
the
I said,
Pat's
just
farm.
like straight up mean. Like it wasn't in a jokey way. It was just
Wasn't
like
in a jokey way. Was just mean, very condescending, kind of trying to put me down type of a deal in front of the group, and I don't jive with that. But honestly, I was like, whatever. He's drunk. He's really shitty. I'm just gonna not talk to him. So yeah, I mean, that was we graduated a couple months, or you guys all graduated a couple months later, and my relationship at the time, the person I was dating and myself still had another semester of school, so we were sticking around the UP for another semester, and we kind of had summers apart. Where I had that summer in New Mexico, where I think we recorded a few episodes in New Mexico, and they
we did.
awful internet. PTSD from that. Anyways, I mean, we got met back up, and then, man, at one point I found out that said friend, in quotes, was flirting with my girlfriend the entire summer. Not in like a friendly way. I mean, that happens, you sometimes that's just how guy friends are. Like say something offhanded, but this was straight up flirting, and there was conversations that were, I don't even remember. Like they were just bad. All right, they were very forward, and they were like, there was shit talk of me in the chat, and I'm not saying that my girlfriend's at the time was completely off the hook, because she wasn't, and I think looking back on it now, like, their relationship was on the way out. Like, I mean, if you listen to the breakup episode, I was super naive the last couple months. It just wasn't working out for her. So yeah, I guess like there was a betrayal of trust obviously there, and he had said some pretty aggressive things towards her and towards me, or for like advancing with her, and some aggressive things against me. And I called him out for it. I said some very, very choice words. Probably the best burn I've ever written in my entire life. I fabricated that thing drunk for like an hour. Oh, God. I'm not going to read it, but it was fucking savage, right? And then this was like the last straw for me, right? So, I mean, I honestly shared it with everybody in our group. Like, hey, this person fucked me over. He's fucked over this other person in our group. Fuck this guy, pretty much. I just felt extremely betrayed. Even to this day, I find those actions and the actions against my other friend in the group inexcusable. I don't think there's anything he could ever say to me that would make me forgive him. Like, I just, you don't hit on other people's girlfriends in advance with them and talk about them behind your back. You just don't. It's kind of like it's a no-go, And this other action that will remain nameless was quite unforgivable itself against our friend. And I think you guys are all nodding your heads because you agree.
Yeah.
So with those two pieces of the puzzle, so like once I divulged this information, that's when I learned about this other action. And I was like, this guy's just the worst. So I think up until this point, he's reached out to me a couple times, and I no desire to talk to him. Just don't.
Well, and to be clear, he's not reaching out with an apology really either. He just wants asking about like ski equipment recommendations.
He asked me about like snowboard equipment like a year ago, and a few other like minor stuff. And I know like some other people with the group aren't like as upset with him because it wasn't as close or as personal. And I have nothing against, other people in our group who still want to talk to him. It's just, to me, it's just like, he's pretty much dead to me. Like, that was one of the most rude things I think you could ever do to someone, and really shows where he valued our friendship. I think it really showed that to him, like, the prize of someone else's girlfriend was more important than our friendship. And I'm like, no. So I don't know. It's definitely more drama ridden and definitely more of like a betrayal, I would say. Like I felt very betrayed, very angry. Thinking about it now, I'm still angry. Just because like it was someone that you think was your friend for years and years, and they do this whole thing behind your back, and
Yeah.
it just sucks.
Like it's not like in a movie where you're out with your girlfriend at a bar and some stranger comes up and start flirting with her, and you're like, oh, it's my girlfriend. Like, oh, no, like this is our friend for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they pulled it. It's like there's no, and like you said, Gabe, you called him out, and he didn't even really apologize.
He deflected onto my girlfriend at the time, which there is some merit to it being partly her fault because she didn't shut it down. I think she was cool with the attention. Like I said, she knew that she didn't want to be in that relationship anymore, but was willing to write it out until we were done with school. But that doesn't excuse himself and his actions, and he didn't. To me, didn't it never felt like he really apologized to me. It was just like, yeah, that sucked. Let's still be friends, but she also replied to me, so it's kind of her fault, Like you should be mad at her. I'm like, all right.
All right, you're done.
I think the last words I ever said to him were "eat shit and die," and I stand by those. I really do.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing you mentioned that he did involved lying, um, like a lot of lying about what
Damn,
actually
bring up that
happened,
aspect.
and that when somebody lies about something like that, it's like it calls into question everything else they've ever said to you to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
And he was always the kind of person to kind of uh,
Embellish.
thank you, Joseph.
It
That's
would
exactly
it
the
would
word.
take it would take somebody to call him out on his bullshit.
Hmm.
He was always one to exaggerate things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that's a certain type of guy we all know. It's like whatever, that's just you. But when something like this happens, it's like all right, yeah, like I've become very wary now of that type of guy,
Mm-hmm.
in just life because it's like I can't trust you if you're gonna do this kind of shit. Um,
Right.
yeah, and it's like you said, the betrayal plus the lack of remorse is just that's the combo
Yeah.
where
Well, and
you're
that's the
done.
thing too, knowing that he had lied in the past, and then him like giving off this apology in quotes, just
Mm-hmm.
felt even less real. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you want to say something? I think you tried to
Um.
cut it at one point.
I don't remember.
Sorry. Just
I
put you on
don't
the spot for
remember.
that. Do you guys want to say anything else about this, Joseph, we're dating? I'm gonna have another thing I want to bring up
Well, I
regarding
guess
this whole
on
topic.
the thing of like with like his lying, right? Like after all this like came out, right? I I realized that like a number of times when like I had like called them out on something, and I mean I don't like I called them out on a lot of bullshit. I'll be real. Like I don't know what it is about my memory, but like when somebody like says something that's like out of the ordinary or whack to me, I like log it in my brain. I don't know what it is, but like I laid a trap for him one time, and I asked him. I was like, oh, when was like, because like 6 months prior he had said like, oh yeah, like the first time that I ever did this was at such and such time and place, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird that you just mentioned that, but all right. And then logged it in deep inside of my brain, and then he brought up the same topic again like 6 months later, right after the first time that he had said it, and I was like, oh, when was like the first time and place that happened, or like it just came up naturally, like I didn't like inject it into the conversation or anything.
Interrogation style.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, just
You
like
put the lamp on him.
just like like 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, funny, because the last time that you talked to this about me, or talked to me about this, it was in high school, and it was
Just
he
backpedals.
just backpedaled. He was like, oh, no, dude, I don't remember that time telling you that. And I was just like, come on, dude, like, checkmate.
You fucked up. Yeah.
Checkmate.
And those questions you got to improv. You got to yes and. You got to yes and. You can't be saying you can't invalidate the scene.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah, it sucked. And I guess what I want to get to here is kind of takeaways from all of our experience, but also I want to talk about kind of the uniqueness of male friendships. Because I know we have a lot of female listeners, and I think it's important for us to talk about this because it's not talked about very frequently, I think, in kind of just general. But I think takeaways from the examples we gave to me is like ghosting sucks. I think especially guys need to try and be better about expressing their feelings more directly to each other. I know when you're kids, that's a lot harder. So I guess I'm more talking to the adults who are listening. Um,
As
but
opposed to all the fifth graders that listen
I
to
don't know
the
if there's high
podcast.
schools listening here, Joseph. I don't know. I don't know who our audience is. I'm assuming most people are at least 18, but you never know. Um, like we said, I think it is harder to break up with a friend than it is anybody else in your life, except maybe like a parent, if you have to do that. But because a relationship can be so like long and like deep, I think they just deserve more respect in that situation. They deserve to hear maybe why you're want to break it off. And like Gabe mentioned, like you told our friend to eat shit and die as he deserved, but I don't think anyone else in our group said anything to him about it, and we
Mm-hmm.
all just kind of ghosted him.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me is like, I kind of wish we would have had like a statement to be like, hey, we all know what you did, and we're not okay with it. But we all just kind of ghosted him, and it's like,
And made a new group chat without him.
and it's like, he must know at this
He
point.
knows.
But it also, I have this like nagging feeling. It's like he's so narcissistic. What if he still thinks he's like we're all cool with him? You know, I don't know. But
I mean,
or
you
at
can
least
text them right
he was
now.
that narcissistic at the time. But yeah, anyway, what I'm getting at here is if you need to do this, if you like need to do this, be very communicative because I think you'll regret it if you don't. I mean, we've all said to some extent here we are happy we made the decision, but don't necessarily agree with how we did it in some of these contexts. So that's kind of the main thing. But as far as male friendships, I want to go back to what Gabe was saying about the lowest rung on the totem pole thing because I feel like I'm not going to say it's every male group because I'm sure there are exceptions, but it feels like in a lot of male groups when you get to a certain number of people and everyone's trying to be funny, one person kind of continually takes the butt of the joke. And I was that person in high school. That's another part of the reason I kind of got away from those friends because I realized at one point, like when I was away, when I was in New Zealand away from them, and we were in a group chat, and I was still eating shit all the time. It's like, what are we doing? Like, this is so stupid. And I remember I like spoke up about it. I'm like, hey, like I don't appreciate, like I'm sick of this. Like I don't want to be treated this way. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, we're sorry. A month later, back at it again. So it's like, I don't appreciate that, but I also know in our house we had that same person, and I'm not proud of a lot of shit I said to them because I was scared of being that person again. Like I think that's a part of it for some people in male friend groups is they don't want to be that person, so they shit on that person even more. Um, so all this is to say is I'm curious what your guys' takes are on that group dynamic, and also can we move on from it? Can we evolve past it in male friend groups?
I don't know. I mean, I think it might just be baked in, but I definitely think this person and yourself squabbled over that spot, or at least it seemed that way. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I think there was a weekend in which it was very clear you guys just weren't friends, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
that happened. That was recent. That was post college.
Yes, and there
Yeah.
was things that were said when we thought this person was gone,
Yeah.
that weren't great.
Yeah,
And
no, and
that's
I mean, I'll just take ownership of that. They were pissing me off because of just the way they work, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're their own person. I was in a bad mood, and they're pissing me off, and I thought they had walked away, and they hadn't, and I started talking shit immediately, and they came back in and called me out on it, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. That was super shitty. I ended up apologizing to them later because I'm just like,
yeah.
that's unacceptable. Like,
No,
I shouldn't have done
I'm
that.
not trying to cancel you. I'm just saying.
No, no, I know, and I know. I want to talk about that because
Hashtag cancel topic.
I just think in general, you guys are very different people, and I
Yeah.
can be friends with both of you guys, but I think you guys just might not be friends with each other, and that's 100% fine. Like,
yeah, and I agree
don't
with you.
fault either of you guys for disagreeing with each other. You guys both have each like opinions about it, but I still think I'm friends with both of you. At least I would hope so. I talk to you every week, and I talk to the other guy every week.
Yeah.
It's just that's just the way it is. Some people just don't work out, and I don't know if it's like a. I guess maybe I'll retract my statement. I don't even know if it was like the bottom of the totem pole so much as it was just more of like a conflict of personality, and that's
I think that instance it was more of a conflict in personality, and yeah, and I want to be very clear. I fucked up, and I tried to apologize for it, and thankfully he accepted my apology. But that's still a moment I was thinking about that in the shower today, and I got cringe, like secondhand cringe. So I'm like, yeah, that was super shitty of me. But I'm happy. I like writing that apology text. It was hard to write because I was so like embarrassed, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have to just push through and do it, you know. And I'm glad I did. But I don't think that was necessarily a bottom of totem pole situation because I think post college now we've kind of gotten past that in our friend group.
Yeah.
But I think we were living in the house. Um, like that person was eating more shit than they do now, just because if they have mannerisms that are easy to make fun of, and like
Hmm.
that's what happens a lot of times too in these friend groups. Like one person does something a little bit different, and everyone just kind of jumps on it. Um,
I
Yeah, I
do
think it's
think
easy. Oh, go ahead.
part of it is a herd mentality thing. Like, oh, this person's ragging on this person. Let me rag on them too.
yep,
Because that's what,
yep,
you know, and like, we're all, especially early on, like in college, you're all still trying to make friends. So, like, could almost see how, like, college is a little different. I mean, I remember talking to one of my friends who's in the same major as me, and he was the bottom of the totem pole in high school. And I was giving him shit one day because that's that was what he was the bottom of the totem pole of our, you know, in our that friend group.
hmm
And I remember him saying to me, granted, this is his sense of humor is very self-detrimental for better or worse, but he's like, man, I thought it was just my friends that were shitty. It turns out I'm the shitty one because I'm still getting made fun of. And
Oh.
that hurt to hear. I'm like, man, I'm
yeah,
so sorry. He's like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't know. It was. I feel bad, and I've about it at the time, and I've talked to him since, and it's been all right. But it was kind of like I do think part of that is that herd and that
hmm
fresh friend group mentality of trying. I don't know, like trying to figure out who people are, and
yeah.
an easy way is to make fun of people, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, you're totally. It's definitely the easy way. It's like I want this person to like me, so I want to make them laugh by making fun of this other person,
Mhm.
you know, and
And
that
if you're
happens real
good at
easily.
it, I mean, like, I don't know, depending on the how much you rag on someone early on, they're probably laughing too, you know? I know, like, I I like to think I'm okay at laughing at myself sometimes. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect, but sometimes I can get a good chuckle at when people make fun of me sometimes, and
I will
that's
say
okay.
it can definitely help if you shoot yourself first before you get shot at.
Yes.
That really kind of opens up. Be like, I'm okay with like this level of making
Hmm.
fun of me, and I can laugh with it too. And that it kind of sets the expectation. I think helps a lot. So yeah, basically what I want to say with this is like if you're listening and you're in a male friend group like this, if you are the person at the bottom and you're not okay with it, try to say something and talk to your friends about it. If they really are your friends, they will be receptive. And if you're the person who's constantly making fun of the person at the bottom, try to think about that person's feelings, make sure they're cool and good with it or whatever, and just maybe have a conversation because it's easy to get used to stuff. Like I was saying, like I got used to being the person at the bottom until one day I was just like, the fuck? Like this is not acceptable. So um maybe try to have that conversation if you're experiencing that in a friend group. And we're saying male, that's our experience. Maybe this does happen in female friend groups as well, but this is our experience. And then the last thing I want to bring up with this whole thing is uh, accountability. So when I was on, TikTok, because I've been on off and on for a lot the past like year or so, I miss it every day. Uh, I followed a lot of female creators that would make a lot of kind of feminist content, which I found very interesting and insightful because that's a viewpoint I don't get very often. And one of the things they brought up, which I think is really important, is that like women in our country, just women in general, have to deal with a lot of shit and just fear because of men and how men act. Like men are the people 99% of the time that rape women, like and just perform violence against women. So they just naturally have to defend themselves and take more precautions and it sucks. It our country this the world sucks because of that regard. But what I want to say is one of the things that they've said as a one of the best things men can do if they want to curb this is one, don't rape people. Don't, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but hold your friends accountable. If you're out with your friends at a bar and one of your friends is drunk, or maybe they're not drunk, and being kind of like touchy or just weird or not leaving a girl alone, get them out of there, grab them, have our conversation with it. But like, because it's so easy to, oh, they're my friend. They mean no harm. You may not know everything about them as much as you want to believe that. I mean, we saw that with the Gus and Eddie example I said at the top of the show. You don't necessarily know how your friend is in private. So if they're being weird with someone else in public, or you think someone's off, just say something to them, get them out of there, and hold your friends accountable for their actions because somebody needs to. If you don't, they're probably not going to listen to anybody else. So um, that's one of the things that I've gotten the most. One of the messages I heard the most frequently on TikTok from these creators is like, men, watch your friends, like watch them at parties and hold them accountable for how they're acting because that's one of the best ways we can protect women out there. So, yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on this whole thing or anything I just mentioned?
I don't know. I think the only other thing I think of is like sometimes it's okay to break off with the group if you feel the need to. Like,
yeah,
if you're feeling like you're at the bottom of the totem pole or it's just not working out, that's fine. Part of life. Friends aren't always, come and go. So sometimes you gotta know when to end it, and sometimes you gotta know when to start one.
Think about how much you're giving and how much you're receiving in relationships. That can help a lot. Of like, am I giving 110? They're giving me 20 because that's not going to be a very beneficial relationship to you in the long run. So, yeah, glad we had this topic, and hopefully it helps somebody out there get in a better situation or just improve their friendships. So yeah, if you have any other like examples and anybody listening that you want to have us talk about or think about, you can just send us a email address is in the description. We can maybe talk about it. But anyway, that's the show for this week. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, you can find our show on Mondays on YouTube and podcast services. Please follow us on Instagram and Twitch. But yeah, until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.